Hello, and welcome to Going Places, a podcast about migration in Southeastern Europe, Eastern Europe, and Central Asia. I'm Olga Borzenkova from IOM Belarus, and I'm here today with Zeynal Hajiyev, Chief of IOM Belarus Mission, to find out more about Nexus between migration and HIV. Zeynal, on 1st December, it is World AIDS Day, and IOM and UNAIDS has just issued a new report about nexus between migration and HIV. Can you please give a sneak of this report and what's it about?
Well, thank you, Olga. Indeed, on the eve of such an important day, World AIDS Day, we are able to issue this report, publish this report, and tomorrow we'll do the official presentation of it. The idea of having such a study was not new. We know that migrants and the mobile population, they are always prone to some risky behaviors, and they are also oftentimes a vulnerable group of people, and they are oftentimes exposed to all type of behaviors that may put them in a situation when they might be infected. We also know that the European region at large, especially Eastern Europe, is well known with the high rate of HIV epidemic, and like Russia being the first with over 1 million people living with HIV. Ukraine, as an example, being the second one, also living with a high number of people living with HIV. Then also we know that also the rate of the growing of new infections is also quite high, something between 10 and 15%, like in Russia. Plus, we also know that many Belarusians go for work to Russia, and Belarus lately and increasingly is becoming as a country of transit for migrants. Also, Belarus becoming a destination country for migrants, while also remaining as a country of source for migrants. So all these gave us a reason to think of find if there was any connection between the HIV and migration, and to see whether or not migrants indeed are those who could be infected by HIV.
So it's resulted into the whole study. And
Yes.
you mentioned that migrants are vulnerable. And what exactly makes vulnerable and causes behavioral risks you're talking about? Is it the level of awareness of HIV route transmission, or just is there a need to preventive activities?
Yes, sure. Although our study did not really aim to identify the HIV status of migrants, but we aimed just to see whether or not they were aware of the HIV per se, if they knew what could be the consequences, or whether or not they need to know their status, or they were informed before migration that they could be prone to these risks. So that's why we started studying, and then we figured out that indeed many migrants are not really well aware. And moreover, it is also quite known that the HIV is often associated with stigma, and people are not always willing to really to approach the institutions for identifying their status. Sometimes migrants feel even being in a worse situation because they may not be aware where such the centers could be located, where they could apply, or whether or not they needed to do it at all. And migrants also, they are mobile population, they are also traveling back and forth, and of course by doing so they also put their own family members in high risk. So it was very important to see how migrants are aware of these risks, and whether or not they are taking some preventive measures to protect themselves against being infected.
Okay, and it seems to me that this study is quite unique in Belarus, and migration health issue was kind of underrated and not paid great attention to. And now this is, I think, a start of a new work and cooperation with the government. So this study has a potential, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely, you're right, because this is first this kind of study in the region, and we are very happy that we eventually were able, after many years of trial, to bring together all actors and to have such an intention materialized in a study. And this is just at the beginning of the process. And in our talks and the results of this study also points at it that we need to really expand. During this study, we were able only to cover just the small group of migrants population, mainly incoming migrants, and a very small group of outgoing migrants. I will even call them migrants, but the mobile people, that's the truck drivers that we are targeting. But
so groups will be extended.
Yes, and that shows that there is an acute need to expand this study and cover all migrants. We know that despite it is not widely discussed, Belarus is a source country for migration. And if we look at statistics of incoming migrants to surrounding Belarus countries like Russia, Poland, Ukraine. If you look at the statistics also, the migrants coming to Belarus itself, we will find that the number of people moving, mobile people migrating is very high. And we are talking here not thousands, we are talking hundreds of thousands of people. So it is obvious that these are the people who are at risk, and they need to be aware of, first of their status, of course, as anyone else, which also during this day, the World Day, the AIDS Day, we also call everyone for this, but also they must be aware of risky behavior so that they can better protect themselves and their family members. This is the intention, and I hope and believe that we will be able to expand this study and have more engagement, not only just study, but also engage in some information campaigns and some preventive activities so that we can spread this knowledge wider among the population and migrants being part of them.
Thank you, Zeynal. Let's hope that this study is really the beginning of further work in cooperation with the government. And so, thank you. IOM Belarus was with you today, with me, Olga Borzenkova, and Zeynal Hajiyev, Chief of IOM Mission. It's Going Places podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Olga.
Yeah, thank you.